on the free agent market, paying him 40, it may be a different ball game. The Raiders is interesting. They do not have an elite weapon on the outside. Chip Kelly, stable coach. Colton Miller, left tackle. 2 excellent tight ends. Darnold, Vegas, he's a West Coast kid. Do you think they'd make a run at him? Do you think that's viable for the Raiders?
I think it's a really good fit. I think because of what Sam Darnold is as a quarterback and a guy you want to get him playing fast. You want to maximize his athleticism. I think he 100% would fit what Chip Kelly is trying to build out there offensively. And look, I think too many people are looking at Sam Darnold the wrong way, right? Which is if you sign him to a Baker Mayfield type of contract, say 100 over 3, 110 over 3, whatever the number is, okay, that's it. That's our quarterback going forward. Why couldn't he be what Alex Smith was for Andy Reid in Kansas City, where he was a really good quarterback who got you to the playoffs a bunch and bought you time to find Patrick Mahomes, especially in a year when there's probably not an answer in the draft where the Raiders are picking, So I think the idea of bringing in Darnold as sort of this short-term, long-term bridge that gives you some flexibility that fits the offense you're trying to build makes a ton of sense. I think it could make some sense for the Rams, too, if they do wind up moving on from Stafford, because he does have experience in that offense. He played for Kevin O'Connell, who worked under Sean McVay, and then he played for Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So I think Vegas and the Rams, if they were to move on from Stafford, would be good landing spots for Darnold. The question, of course, is whether or not they let him go. The Vikings are very comfortable with J.J. McCarthy right now. There is a little question about him putting some weight back on. So that's something we have to watch over the next few weeks. But
okay, well, I really want to talk about Sam Darnold to the Raiders. We talked about this a little bit before, and there was a lot of questions about, the way how Chip Kelly wants to run his offense. Will he be able to have that success? Will Sam Darnold be able to fit that, et cetera, et cetera. And now when he's talking about Alex Smith, I think we're kind of getting lost in the weeds, but not in the good way, not in the way that I normally like to do it. So there's a few things that I really want to point out. One, Sam Darnold is significantly more athletic than people realize. If you didn't know anything about anyone's history, you would say that Sam Darnold has a similar game. And again, I'm saying this very loosely, to a Josh Allen. In terms of some of the mobility aspect, the size, the strength, the physicality. Josh Allen is obviously a whole nother world better than Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold keeps kind of being tagged as a quarterback who's just not good, but had just one random great year. And that's not who Sam Darnold was. Remember, where Sam Darnold was drafted, how high he was drafted, his prospects, again, his size, his strength, the ball he throws, his mobility, his athleticism. He was drafted and then went to just bad teams. He just was. That is his story. So if you can get Sam Darnold on $100 million 3-year deal, I mean that is perfection for the Raiders, because I don't know where, and again, it's hard to predict what the draft will look like or what some other specific moves would look like. But that is such an awesome spot to be in, because we've seen what Sam Darnold can do when you put a team around him. The dude can win games. And again, don't be so quick to say, well, look how the season ended. Because again, he was pressured nonstop. And look what happened to Patrick Mahomes when he was pressured nonstop. And the reality is that I don't expect Sam Darnold to be able to overcome all that pressure when compared to a Patrick Mahomes. Because Patrick Mahomes was in the GOAT conversation. So he should be held to a higher standard. And yet he couldn't even find his way out of it. So don't expect Sam Darnold then either. So unless you're able to draft the next Patrick Mahomes, and by all means, be my guest. That doesn't look like that's going to be necessarily happening. So you absolutely, with smart decision making and a really smart OC in Cliff Kingsbury and the culture of Pete Carroll, you can legitimately win games. And if you're making legit moves in free agency and in the draft, you could be, with Sam Darnold, you can be competing to win the division. It's not even up for debate, because we saw what he was able to do with the Minnesota Vikings. They were competing to win the division and get the number 1 seed in a tough division, not an easy division. with the Detroit Lions, with the Green Bay Packers. So yeah, you support Sam Darnold. You have the right coaches there and the right roster there. You absolutely could be competing to win the division, which that's where the comparison to Alex Smith almost makes a little bit of sense, because they did win the division multiple times. I think that for the first time in Kansas City Chiefs history, they won the division like back-to-back years or something. But make no mistake about it, Sam Darnold has the potential to be significantly better than Alex Smith. He's younger, he's more mobile, he's bigger, stronger, faster. He's got the ability just to be a better quarterback. And this, so you don't even need to use Sam Darnold as a placeholder necessarily. The dude can win games. He's already shown to be a big-time player. Again, against the Green Bay Packers in a gotta-have-it game, against a tough defense, a tough, gritty team, divisional team. I mean, Sam Darnold made some massive plays, some huge throws. You can't take that away from him. He proved to be a big game player. I understand the way how things ended in the final 2 games. I get it. He was pressured just nonstop. And Kevin O'Connell did not give him any answers. And it's just perfect that we saw Patrick Mahomes completely crumble. So, again, ask yourself, are you expecting Sam Darnold to be able to do what Patrick Mahomes was unable to do? And that's where it's always so fascinating. Who do you give the blame? Do you give the blame to the O-line? Do you give the blame to Patrick Mahomes? And that's why it's a nuanced conversation. I expect Patrick Mahomes to be better in that situation because he's Patrick Mahomes. The whole thing about you being an all-time great quarterback is for you to be great in an imperfect situation. I don't expect that from Sam Darnold. So I will give more blame to the O-line and coaching for Sam Darnold's failures than for Patrick Mahomes' failures. That's the game you play when you're being in the conversation for the GOAT. That's the deal here. That's the deal. Not to mention, there was many moments that Patrick Mahomes could have succeeded when he had some space and he just failed. There was none of those moments for Sam Darnold. None. And it's also kind of indefensible because they saw what everything looked like against the Lions and then did nothing to prepare for that same situation with the Rams. I mean, there's no way Patrick Mahomes would have looked exactly the same if he then had another game after that Eagles game. If he had another game after that, there's no way you would have had a repeat. And if there was a repeat, I would blame Andy Reid. I would blame Andy Reid would get massive amount of blame for that because I would be like, how are you not, creating a better situation for Patrick? And if Patrick Mahomes continued to fail in the same way as well, I'd be like, dude, you rolled out, you bought some time, and then you threw a pick six. That's on you. That's not on the pressure. That's on you. You're supposed to be a better quarterback in that moment, and you simply were not. So the fact that it happened kind of twice, back-to-back games, kind of lends credence to that. Like, Kevin O'Connell deserves legitimate blame for some of those failures at the end of the season. And I think Chip Kelly can do a lot with Sam Darnold. And if you're an offensive coordinator, there always has to be this adaptability because people are kind of like, oh, well, Chip Kelly runs a very specific offense, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, you're either a great offensive mind or you're not. You're either a one-trick pony or you're not. And Chip Kelly will most likely, like, this is like the fascinating situation that the Raiders are in. I think Pete Carroll is their Alex Smith, like the guy who they're just kind of like waiting, and Chip Kelly is hopefully their Patrick Mahomes in terms of the coaching thing. Because I don't, Pete Carroll's not going to be their coach for 10 years. That's why they even signed him to a short deal, a shorter deal than most coaches ever get. And now you have Chip Kelly, whose stock really couldn't be higher right now. And yeah, you're going to be looking to like have Chip Kelly take over the reins and now be the offensive head coach for the Raiders for years to come. And I think Sam Darnold is a great jumping off point. And again, if there's someone in the draft that you can get, and now there's the feeling of, okay, Chip Kelly can make magic with that guy, like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And again, by all means, you do that. But make no mistake about it, you can win some games right now and be a legitimate contender. Andy Reid and Alex Smith came up short. One, because Alex Smith was only so good of a quarterback, number one. And number two, he had to take on Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and Andrew Luck. Like, Hall of Famers. I know Andrew Luck, obviously, his career was short, but if he kept playing, he obviously was a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was amazing. So, yeah, doing that with an Alex Smith who's clearly, running out of time in his career, it's a hard thing to do. You're going to get significantly more juice out of Sam Darnold. Significantly more. So I would love this move. Truthfully, any of these teams that need a quarterback, I think Sam Darnold will have massive success. Whether it's the Colts, whether he's staying with the Vikings, the Raiders, the Rams. I think any of those main teams that really need a quarterback that also kind of have the coaching situation pretty well, suited, will have a lot of success. So I really encourage Raider fans to not immediately dismiss a Sam Darnold or even downplay what a Sam Darnold can do. Because again, look no further than what he did with the Vikings. And then ask yourself, well, if we're going to be a great team, then we have to build a team that's better, build a better roster than what the Vikings have. And you're betting on Chip Kelly being better than a Kevin O'Connell. And you're betting on Pete Carroll being a better defensive mind than Brian Flores. He's a Super Bowl winner. So if you build the right team, then you already know what you can do. And if it hasn't been obvious now, well then it'll be obvious tomorrow. Protect your quarterback. Get the O-line going. Establish the run, a consistent run game. I mean, it becomes such a cliche, establish the run. But like I said, I'm actually happy that coaches and teams still fail to do that, because otherwise it would give me nothing to talk about. And you can win some games. You can compete with the Broncos. You can compete with the Chargers. You can compete with the Chiefs. You can actually be a legitimate playoff contender. And you don't have to keep playing this game with, well, let's have quarterbacks who are kind of are they NFL quarterbacks? Are they not? Let's draft this 22-year-old and hope he becomes a top 5 quarterback. So I'm excited to see what they do. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Sam Darnold potentially going to the Las Vegas Raiders? And Las Vegas Raiders fans, would you want to see that happen? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.